every year in our household, when we get ready to decorate the house for Christmas, we go down to the basement where we have these big tubs in storage that have the decorations and the things we put up last year. And years ago, I noticed we started this habit of labeling the tops of the tubs with year by year instructions noting what years we put what things in here, so that future me every year in early December would know where to find the ornaments or the garland or the stockings or the nutcrackers or the nativity sets, all those things. We've left these notes to ourselves over the years long enough and kept these tubs long enough that sometimes we've had to change and cross out, no, that's what we did a long time ago. Here's what we did last year. And we'll leave notes with what year it was, where you can find what directions for where to find the different Christmas decorations. I've been thinking to myself about how important it was to leave those notes to ourselves before. And yet, obviously, these are not themselves the decoration, right? The whole point of the tub is this is storage for the rest of the year. But when it's time to get the decorations out, when it's time to put up the Christmas tree, when it's time to get ready for Christmas, we need these kind of obtuse and in-your-face kind of directions that say, here's what's in this tub, that aren't not meant to be pretty. They're not meant to be decorative, but are meant to, like, in very simple, clear directions. Here's what you'll find in here. In other words, the directions on the top of the tub help us to see, help me to know where the real decorations are. The real focal point, maybe the tree, the nativity, the ornaments, that kind of thing. But I need the label on top to know where to find it. This is what calls my attention, grabs my attention, and tells me where to look for the thing that is the real center of attention. Nobody would think it's the right to decorate your house by just putting a bunch of tubs or lids on display in their living room, but we need them because they help us to get ready, right? My guess is you've got some kind of system like that yourself, some place you'll always look for the decorations, and maybe even leave yourselves notes. Sometimes I'll notice I'll have even left myself a note inside the tub. Like last year I found one that said, hey, dear future Steve, you'll find in this tub, here's the garland you use, but last year the bulbs are kind of looking kind of like weary, so you might need to get new bulbs this year, or you might need a new garland this year, because I think it was just on its last legs this year. But you can decide, future you. I think about this not just because it's funny to leave myself notes for the future or to read notes from myself from the past, but because in a way every year we do this same thing, we church folk, in the lectionary. We do this thing in Advent, when every year we come across this direct, blunt voice we call John the Baptizer, and he shows up and he is not decorative at all. He's not pretty or elegant or refined. He's brusque and he is in your face, and he's, well, sort of like bullet point lists written on a plastic tub. He's like, let's get to the point, here's the message. And he's important. We don't quite know what to do with him because he doesn't quite fit into our nativity sets, right? He's not quaint or sentimental. We can do that with the nativity story. We can think how lovely and cute the baby Jesus is. We're so used to the sort of homespun, comfortable, almost romanticized image of the nativity scene. That's decorative. That we put up those in our house as decoration. My guess is you do too. Nobody puts up a figurine of John the Baptizer, even though he's an essential forerunner who gets us ready for the coming of Jesus. Because maybe John knows something. Maybe John knows that his job isn't to be the center of attention, like, say, the tree or the wreath or the nativity set, but he's supposed to be the set of directions that tells us where we're supposed to point our attention, so that when we can be focused on whatever is the actual focus of our attention, John is comfortable being that. John is comfortable being the brusque bullet point list of a message from God that gets our attention to turn our focus on the one who really is at the center of it all. John understands that's his ministry. So as we get to hear from him again this year, almost like we're getting out the decorations and getting out the tubs every year, here we come across John again, whose job is to get our attention, and maybe to do it in ways that are unpolished and brusque and in your face and cut right to the chase, because he brings an important message. The opening line we get out of John's mouth: repent, turn around, because God's reign is at hand. In other words, if you have felt like you were stuck in a dead end, you don't have to keep going chasing down those dead end rabbit trails anymore. You are free to be a part of the new thing God is doing here and now. God's reign is happening. John is about to call our attention to see it in Jesus. And to do that, he's willing to get our attention in sort of in-your-face, brusque kind of bullet point ways. He's willing to be the lid on the decoration. This is not the decoration. This is not the center of attention. But he's willing to get our attention so that then we can be directed to what is the right center of our attention. John's okay not having the limelight. He's just here to direct us so we know where to look. Maybe we need voices like that, especially in a season where there's a million things competing for our attention. Our regular lives are already busy as they are, and now on top of that, you've got your kids' a Christmas concert and their choir ensemble, and you've got this activity and this party and this gift exchange, a million other things. John is here to cut through all that and to say, let me show you what's the most important. He draws us to Jesus, and that's where we're going this Sunday.